Hello there. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Digital Transformation 2.0 program brought to you by the Economic Times and by KISSFlow. Today's panel discussion is on review and reboot for success. And I'm expecting a really strong discussion with lots of takeaways for all of us. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to all the panelists and to the audience members who are joining us to listen in and to participate in this great program. My name is Alokesh Bhattacharya. I'm senior editor of the Economic Times. I will take you through today's discussion. Initially, let me just start off with introductions to the panel. We have a very strong panel here. We have Manish Lunia, co-founder of flexiloans.com. Hello, Manish.
Hi, Alkishda.
We have R. Anandakrishnan, executive vice president, HR and IT with
Hel-
TVS Motor Company. Hi,
Hello,
Anand.
Alagda.
Welcome. We have Manpreet Singh Ahuja, chief digital officer of PwC. Welcome,
Hi
Manpreet.
everyone.
We have Dinesh Vardarajan, Vice President of KISSFlow. Hey Dinesh, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
And we also have Arvind Sivaramakrishnan, CIO of Apollo Hospitals Enterprise. He will join us shortly. Given that he's in Apollo Hospitals, you'll have to forgive him for joining a little late. But of course, he's not ill. He's perfectly all right. So let's start this. I'll just put some context first. As you can see, the panel that we have here are from the variety of industries. So we are looking forward to a really strong discussion coming off with different perspectives. One of the things that we have all noticed is that the pace of digital adoption of digital technologies in enterprises has really multiplied. The pace has quickened like we never expected, and across continents, across countries, across companies, everywhere, the pace of digital adoption has speeded up like anything. Even organizations that were earlier not very sure of the benefits of digital, and they were not very sure whether they should go and how much they should go, they have been forced to get off the fence and just do it, because that's the need of the hour, right? So even before the pandemic hit us, I was discussing with our panelists earlier before we went live, that earlier before the pandemic, there was a saying that said that in the future, you're either a digital company or you're dead, right? Now that future has come to us much faster than we would have expected. Today, you can say you're either a digital company boss or you're not there, right? Where's your business? So that kind of change has been, we've seen a lot of such facilitators in recent times where certain things have been, leapfrogged and accelerated, and digital adoption has certainly been massively accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the more positive effects, you could say, of a most unfortunate event. Now, I'll just take 2 more minutes. A survey by McKinsey, it is a global CXO survey. If I am saying that, digital adoption has quickened faster, there is no number to it, right? It's just a qualitative, anecdotal, abstract kind of feeling. But a McKinsey survey of global CXOs tells us that companies on average reacted 20 to 25 times faster to COVID-related changes than earlier, right? And this acceleration was maximum in remote working and in collaboration. That was 40 times faster than before, right? That's unbelievable. Followed by online offerings for customer purchases, increased use of advanced technologies in operations, and various other things. One of the most critical changes that have happened. Welcome to Arvind. Arvind, say hello. You need to unmute yourself.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome, Arvind Sivaramakrishnan, CIO of Apollo Hospitals. Your lovely background still is there. I can see it's really fantastic. It makes good setting for our discussion. Now, as I was saying, one of the major changes that has happened is the importance of digital that senior management of companies give. Before the pandemic, in legacy businesses in particular, the senior management, the boards of directors, the CEO would not be that occupied with digital. And they'd say, oh, I've got a CTO, I've got a CIO, he knows much better than me. Let them take it over, let them handle it. But today, they can't afford to do that, right? They have to work in partnership with the gentlemen that you can see here on the panel and with others who are also in the audience today. So at the board level, at a senior management level, at a chairman CEO level, the importance of digital is being thoroughly discussed. Questions are being asked. What should we do? How should we do it? Where should we invest? what should we buy, and why should we do it, right? Why should we do it is still a good question, but not in terms of why should we do it at all, but why should we do it to a certain degree and why not more? That is probably the bigger question today. So in this kind of a situation, the responsibility of CIOs and CTOs, the people who are on our panel today, it increases manifold, because then the future of your organizations are at stake if the digital strategy is not thought through accurately, depending on the needs of your organization. And I'm really delighted to be able to moderate this discussion today. I'm looking forward to some fantastic insights. But before I get into the discussion proper, I'd like to invite Dinesh from Vardarajan, Dinesh Vardarajan from KISSFlow, our partner in this initiative, to give a welcome address. Dinesh.
Thanks, Alokesh. It's with a great pleasure that I welcome all the eminent panelists. I'm 100% sure this is going to be a wonderful conversation with loads of insights in the next 1 hour, because pretty much we got all the best companies here as part of the panel as well, right? With that, I will do a short intro about what I think of digital workplace, and then we'll start the conversation. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, I think you should. Try it.
Yeah. You need to enable it for me, I guess.
No problem. We are waiting.
Can you please enable it?
We can't see it yet.
Yeah, we can't. I can't. Still saying it's disabled.
Technology team, can you enable Dinesh's sharing ability? What's an event in India without a bit of a glitch? It's no fun, right?
This always happens. Challenges of digital transformation.
To be some glitch for us to have some fun. Okay, you can try it after 2-3 minutes. Maybe you want to just run us through the presentation.
I'll probably talk about what digital workplace is, right? And my perspective on that. The biggest difference is what happened because of COVID, what got accelerated because of COVID, right? Digital transformation is there for quite some time, for probably more than a decade right now. And as you rightly said, this is always an initiative that is executed in part of an organization. Probably the CIO is like running this initiative, or some team experimenting something with the digital workplace or digital transformation. What COVID changed is the level in which the digital transformation is seen inside the organization, right? It is no more seen as a way to optimize what you already have, right? It is no more about work efficiency. It's also seen as a growth driver, right? So if you look at what happened in the last 6 to 9 months, pretty much everyone inside the organization adopted the digital transformation, right? It is no more from the top, trying to push it to all the employees inside the organization and working with them to enable them to transform to the newer way of working. Pretty much everyone automatically adapted to the new way of working as well. So right now, what we are saying is probably the next wave in digital transformation, right? And this is not going to stop just because the COVID is like pretty much over right now. Let's see if I can share the presentation right now. No, it is still not. Okay, so if you look at the phases of digital transformation.
Sorry, Kabir, can you make Dinesh the co-host? He can then share his screen. Please do that at the back end.
You probably wait for a few seconds and see if this works.
Yeah.
I think we are still figuring out ways to run conferences online, 100% online, isn't it? It's more than 6 months and completely new to every one of us, pretty much. We have all the setups at home, lighting, screens, completely different way of doing things.
Absolutely. Okay, just give it one more try and then let's continue.
Yeah, it's still not working. Let's see. Okay, so if you look at digital transformation, we are actually looking at 3 different phases, right? And the first one is quite obvious, like moving paperless, because for a very long time, we want to actually go towards a paperless office, where we want to automate all the analog system to digital systems, and that is happening for many years right now. And the next one is what we call as digitalization, right? Where we talk about process automation. This is pretty much about improving the efficiency inside the organization, right? It is about figuring out all the gaps, trying to implement systems to improve the productivity. And of course, if you go to any organization, anything that is not related to the top line, right? It is, we spend very little energy and money on that, right? Of course, we can always optimize, but the money and the effort always goes into improving the top line, right? More than optimization. But the new thing that is happening is not digitalization, but it's transformation. It is not just about tools. It is about the style. It's the culture of the organization itself, right? And how we actually see all the employees inside the organization see the transformation as. That's the third phase of our transformation that we are in right now. And that is pretty much possible because pretty much everyone adapted to the new way of working during the COVID times, because we don't have any other alternative. Now that now I have an option, I guess. Let me see if we can share the presentation.
Still?
Yeah, I think I can. Let's see. Can you see the screen right now?
Yes,
I have a couple of cartoons. Probably.
I was almost about to say congratulations.
Okay. Anyway, this cartoon is like pretty famous as well, and Alokesh actually
I love this one.
the last time.
Yeah.
What the CTOs and CEOs can't do, an unfortunate event actually made it happen, right? Again, another thing, pretty much this was happening before COVID. Everyone know digital transformation is extremely important, right? And we know it's disruptive. Just that it is not everyone believes in it, right? Everyone have their own priorities. So it is no more the case with COVID, because the whole organization, as Alokesh rightly said, the board, the CEOs, everyone want to be part of this digital transformation. It is not just one team somewhere in the organization. It's not the CEO or CIO alone, correct? So this is what we're like talking about. Digital transformation is happening for a very, very long time, but it's always about process efficiency. It is always about optimizing what we are already doing. It's actually moving beyond that, and that is happening at a different scale right now because of COVID, right? This got accelerated because of COVID as well. And that's what we call as, we are actually seeing digital transformation as a growth driver right now. It is no more about efficiency. If you see, we are seeing a lot of digital first companies that are purely digital, and the digital strategy is actually the digital mode for them. That is pretty much what makes them successful compared against the non-digital companies or non-digital native companies, right? The transformation is already happening. If you look at it, this is what happened because of COVID. The Zoom, Slack, if you look at this chart, this is pretty much what we call as the hockey stick growth, right? Everyone's immediately started adapting Zoom and Slack. The biggest surprise is the teachers, they are using Google Classroom right now. That is pretty much impossible a year back, right? So pretty much everyone adapted to the changes, and these changes are quite natural as well, because no one is pushing these changes to all these people. They know this is a new way of working. So this change is already happening as well, right? So these are the three phases we already discussed. So if you look at IDC, the next generation is not about top down, right? It is about bottom up. It is about every employee in the organization adopting the digital workplace, and the mindset is different, the culture is different, and they are driving from the bottom, not just from the top, right? That's what they believe as the next generation of digital transformation. And that's what Gartner believes as well, because they said, because of COVID, we are forced to accelerate transformation by 5 years, right? What's supposed to happen by 2026, we are supposed to do it next year in 2021 or 22, right? So that's an acceleration that we are talking about because of this pandemic. And of course, enterprise software is going to have the strongest rebound because everyone is trying to automate and move towards digital transformation. This is another perspective, right? It is not just about pandemic. It is also about the people who are working in these organizations. Pretty much all the people, all the millennials, they started with smartphones, right? And of course, you can't ask them to go and work with the legacy way of working, the papers and the forms, right? So millennials in 2025 will comprise 75% of the workforce. And they already know how to work with the new age technologies, and that they would expect in an organization as well. So we are part of Digital Workplace Experience Conference, which happened in Chicago last year. We are one of the platinum sponsors along with Slack, right? So there are a lot of CIOs and the new designation, what we call as the digital experience, VP of digital experience, right? Or digital workplace, participating in these conferences. And we conducted a survey among all these participants, and they actually see the digitization or process improvement as one of the primary use cases. Of course, the process improvement is a story that is happening for the last 10, 15 years. Everyone is talking about process improvement or automation, but it's surprising, it's still not over. Even now, close to 45% of the people believe the first priority for digital workplace is process improvement or digitization, right? That's very surprising. But we are doing this for quite some time. Where is the gap? Right now, pretty much if you look at any big organization, the core systems are already automated. You have the ERPs, you have CRMs, HCMs, part of the organization software stack, right? But beyond that, there are like thousands of applications that are used across the organization, what we call as the long tail applications, right? If you go to any department or any function, they have their own share of Excel sheets. They have their own macros written for the Excels. They have their own applications they buy from external vendors, and they use it to automate their applications, right? This is what we call as the long tail app. And these long tail apps are developed and maintained by the end users, not the IT departments, right? And that's where the biggest change is going to happen, because this digital workplace or the digital transformation is targeted at end users, enabling them to automate their work, right? Using like a variety of tools, and that's going to be the next cycle as well. So if you look at it again, this is a study by Salesforce. They believe 84% of the IT leaders believe improved employee tech is critical for the company to compete, right? It's not like one team inside the organization who actually talks to everyone, then automate use cases. It is about every team, every department in an organization, and make sure they are empowered to solve their challenges, right? That's the next way. So what's the benefits? Of course, the benefits are extremely clear. We are able to improve the operational efficiency by like 40%. And of course, anything that is internal, of course, the customer will be able to see that experience as well. We can improve the customer experience by 46%. And we can also improve the productivity by 52%, because employees are the ones who are actually enabling it, are driving this digital transformation inside the organization. And if they are driving it, they are literally championing it internally as well, right? So top down, it is no more pushed from the top. It is also they embrace, they enable. So they are going to champion the cause. So that's going to improve the productivity by 52% as well, right? So with that, I will probably talk about KISSFlow for 2 minutes. After that, we'll get into the conversation and try to understand the perspective from all the panelists as well. So KISSFlow is a digital workplace company. It's like a platform that is used by thousands of customers around the world in more than 160 countries, pretty much every country that we can think of, right? Of course, there are some white spots over here. We'll see probably how to fill it up in next year as well, right? A lot of global brands using KISSFlow to automate their internal processes. Pretty much the same case, right? End users using the product to automate their use cases. A lot of Indian brands as well, right? From Flipkart to CaratLane to Lenskart or Ather. Right? So we're already recognized as leader in business process management by G2 Crowd, also by Forrester and Gartner. So KISSFlow Digital Workplace is like one unified platform where you can automate your processes, manage your projects, manage your collaboration. We believe all these things are connected together, right? It is not about 10 different tools used inside the organization, where the employee need to understand all these tools as well, right? That's the biggest challenge. So if it's about giving a unified experience for the employee where they can actually use one product to automate whatever they want inside the organization, right? We'll talk about a couple of use cases very quickly and then move on to the conversation. Orbi pretty much may not know the brand, but you pretty much know all the products from that brand, right? From Dettol to Harpic, right? So they have like 10,000 users using Kissflow inside the organization in more than like 34 different countries. The Kissflow is integrated with all the existing systems inside the organization. And again, another energy giant, McDermott, it's in the news for some like not so good reasons in the past, right? It's again Fortune 500 energy company. They have 15,000 users using the product in Kissflow. It's used in like 25 countries. They already automated close to 96 processes inside the organization. With that, I will probably wait to hear your perspective from different panelists, and I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. That was a great presentation. And one thing that really struck me about what you said is that 75% of the world's workforce by 2025 will be millennials. I can already see Manish here. I think you belong to the millennial group, right? So does Dinesh. I'm not, unfortunately. You can see it from here. But when 75% is going to be millennial, that means this is probably what we are seeing now is just a transitional phase, right? From the legacy to the real digital world. This is the transition phase, and this is where all the difficult decisions need to be taken, which are in your capable hands. So now to get into the panel discussion, let us start with the first audience poll. So the note to the audience that we are going to come to you with 3 polls, and you are welcome to ask your own questions in the Q&A tab. Okay, we'll only notice the Q&A tab, so don't put anything in the chat. And depending on the time on hand, I might even get one of you on camera to ask a live question. Okay, but that's not a promise. We'll try it. As of now, can we launch the first poll, please? All the audience members need to vote. Panelists cannot vote. They only need to watch. So what is the top goal? This is something that Dinesh was alluding to for adopting digital tools in your organization or your team. Reduce operational costs, migrate on-premise to cloud, better the employee experience for remote teams, cater to consumer behavior changes, outperform competitors, and better visibility into what is happening. Dinesh, I think you're not surprised by seeing reduce operational cost still at the top.
Yeah, still.
With all the digital transformation, we are still looking at productivity.
Yeah, that is pretty much the same case even now, isn't it? That's surprising.
Yeah, 60% have already voted out of 240 people. So I think we're pretty much there. We can stop the poll. Yeah, well, 3 of them are closed. Reduce operational costs, better employee experience, better visibility into what is happening. Okay, better employee experience is a good, interesting thing. But reduce operational costs, really? I mean, is that the main goal for digital transformation? I would, from a journalist perspective, I would think not, but I would defer that question to the real experts here on the panel. Let me start with Arvind from Apollo. Arvind, you could tell us a little bit about, I mean, we don't want to dwell on the past, like we were discussing, what has happened during the pandemic and all. We more or less know what has happened, and everybody on this panel and in the audience have a broad idea of what steps organizations took, right? The question is, what's the way forward? You've seen the insight from the IT leaders who are there in our audience. What does it tell us about how organizations are crafting DT strategy after COVID? Right? If you could tell us from your perspective and your own organization, what are you doing now that you were not doing before?
Perfect. I think one thing that the pandemic has done to us is reinforce the fact that necessity is the mother of invention. And what was considered, even let's look at the work from home as probably the most famous outcome of the pandemic. Work from home was considered a benefit. Some organizations saw it. Those who did it were in the news. They spoke about it. Now it's become a much more better reality, not just for the duration of what was there, But I think organizations have tasted the ability of alternate business models that unfortunately they were thrust into because of the situation. But thrusting people into that brought out a lot of innovative practices which we are able to take forward. Healthcare as such, yes, the country was locked down for a period of time, but then healthcare did not stop. No doubt there was geographical and physical travel restrictions, but those who needed help were given that sting ability. No doubt it was constrained. I'm not downplaying the constraints that were physically placed because of movement issues. But then people started realizing that for those activities for which we could have virtual clinical consultations, we were able to effectively do that. And today it is starting to become mainstream activity in alignment with the physical outpatient consultations. The ability, therefore, to create capacity in various models and effective monitoring of the sick in a not direct healthcare setup was also well demonstrated in all the places where people needed remote monitoring. People were in some of the centers outside of the hospitals. So those models have gotten created. Then when we talk about employee productivity, clearly employee productivity also started looking at effectiveness in terms of collaboration that people can do. I'm pretty sure all of us would have met in person somewhere in Delhi or Mumbai for this conversation. So there is a nature of productivity that you're able to do, keep your normal work, do your additional other activities. Similarly, within the organization, that quick ability to video conference and video chat with people with the productivity whiteboards and all of those have really changed the way in which people are looking at how to quickly solve issues. And internal to organizations, that's bringing people closer. And then the other aspect of looking at all of this is also the whole aspect of the reimagined workplace, the reimagined anytime, anywhere, where you're able to get those experts at short duration. And these models existed before. What has happened now is these models have been reinforced with a high degree of surety. So very directly speaking, has something new happened? Nothing new has happened. What was there has been reinforced at a scale that is unimaginable. Earlier, that scale was minuscule. And definitely agree with the comment in terms of operational expenditure, because a good part of digital transformation as part of the reimagination of our work process is also about reducing that operational overhead expenditure. So whether you call it reduction in operational expenditure or reimagination for a better one, it's probably terminology differences on how we articulate it. But end result is, yes, the operational day-to-day is done better with a degree of maturity, and thereby the costs have reduced. So if your driver was purely cost, that's fine. All roads still lead to God. Whichever way we took, I think the outcome and the consequential outcome are both well received and good from a benefit. And I'm not speaking just from a healthcare standpoint. I'm also speaking from other industries viewpoint where they've also seen those efficiencies. So in total, with a difficult economic year, it's also laid stress on these alternate methods so that those can be effective for business conversations. Not an expert in the automobile sector, but seeing cars being sold online with a degree of ability to have a test drive is a good alternate method. I know initial reaction will be, how can I buy such a big thing online? But there are ways in which it can be done, not to the dot. There can be a combination of that physical and digital coexisting. that bring in that layers of efficiency and reduce the time it takes for the overall process to be completed. I think that's the benefit that we saw, not only the literals.
Right. Very, very interesting points to make. And since you talk of Manpreet, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, Arvind, wanted to be a little more provocative on the feedback that we got from the audience around operational efficiencies and cost as a big driver. And I appreciate your point that all sort of roads lead to Rome, but the ground reality is, my challenge is, if the organization right now thinks they're enjoying the rhythm of this change and they've achieved certain savings and that's the real driver, I actually feel they're sitting on the fringe and they would have spent more money than the cost of capital in the medium run. Forward-looking companies, and in fact, not even forward-looking companies, vast majority of companies over the last 10, 12, 14 months have begun imagining this digital agenda to go much beyond cost saving into engaging better with the customer, developing modern technology capabilities, making technology a competitive advantage, rethinking, repivoting the business model, some of the examples that Arvind spoke of, and in fact, eventually bringing technology to the core of the solution set that is being offered in the marketplace. And that to me is the real opportunity. And in fact, my ask is to everyone, for once this pandemic has created an enablement where you don't have to go and strike a ROI conversation to begin with. I mean, you have to imagine a much bigger purpose of, what digital does to the organization, and hence don't just go back to cost as the single most important driver. That's like going back to 2017.
I really like you, Manpreet. I must get you into more discussions. But I'll also bring this point to Anand, because Arvind also spoke about the auto industry and buying cars online, which actually had started pre-COVID also. There were companies who were offering that you could buy cars online, you could customize online and all that. But Anand, taking a thought at whatever we got to see from the audience in that poll, Arvind spoke about alternate business models coming in, new practices, innovative practices, reimagining the workplace. And Manpreet saying is, don't only think about cost, So, and don't go into ROI driven kind of thing, which is very difficult to do. I think most organizations are always looking at, what is the ROI I get out of the spend? So what is your approach then, Anand? What has changed because of the pandemic?
Yeah, so let me not talk about the pandemic to start with. I think it is much before that we embarked in a digital journey as an organization or as a group, triggered by the leadership insights and the leadership vision of customer first. I think that is where TVS has always stood for, customer satisfaction at the core. Now that got transformed into customer experience. Now, earlier we were talking about product alone, but today we are talking about how do we deliver an experience to the customer, which includes product. Product always used to be at the center, but today it's the whole end-to-end kind of an experience. How do we deliver it to the customers is becoming much more. And as Arvind rightly pointed out, 5 years before, if somebody were to talk about an online ordering of a motorcycle or a car, we would say that where is the touch and feel and all that. But today, I think that is something that has significantly changed, and we are seeing customers ordering online, and it also adds a lot of value to the customer in terms of customization and other things that we can do at the point of sale. So we took digital transformation from the point of delivering a customer experience on one side, and of course better decision making amongst all the people, so that the value addition by people in the organization can be much better. These were the two pointers that we took for driving digitalization. And of course cost optimization is I would say is an output of what you can get out of the entire process. But what we said was, how do we make life simple for people, and how can we make people think better and think beyond what they can do to enable better decision making. So that's our approach to digitalization.
Right. And Manish, there is a reason why I'm coming to you after all of them, because in my mind, there is still the legacy business versus the, the new digital native, right? I mean, for you, digital, you might be thinking, what is all this digital you guys are talking about? Digital is our lifeline, right? It's in your blood because you are digital in that sense. So if we look at it from your perspective, Flexi Loans, a company that is born in the digital age, that is born digital, born on the internet, everything that you do is digital. What does digital transformation mean to a company like yours? Is it still a valid thing to say that you also have to undergo digital transformation? Has the pandemic accelerated digital transformation in companies like yours? Or is it just like, oh, you guys are just talking, you don't know what you're talking about?
Lokesh, I think the way I think we started lending 5 years ago to unsecured loans to customers pan India, sitting in one office in Bombay. This is 5 years ago. And over the last 5 years, we have disbursed over 30,000 loans in 1,200 plus locations in the country. Right? We did not have a printer in our office for the first 2.5 years. So we are talking about paperless. We now have it more for secretarial purposes and so on and so forth. So that is what was over the last 4-5 years. However, having said that, I think I liked one thing which Dinesh was mentioning in his speech. This is a culture that's coming in. The culture is for the entire ecosystem. Now, the customers were not digitized. We do loans to small, medium enterprises, the small kirana shop, the small mom and pop store, which was taking loan from us, but was not able to come online, interact online with us, right? So there's no purpose when the customers don't adopt technology. What I believe what has happened in this period is that culture of trust, the culture of use cases that have come out. I think we did not think it will come this fast. So the ecosystem, be it regulators, the RBI today allowing a video KYC or a CKYC now, be it customers who are now coming online, doing the KYC processes or taking loans digitally. I think the cultural shift is the next digital transformation, where organizations like ours are working, because when we believed we were solving it in our views of digitalization, now we are more customer centric again, saying, hey, how can we completely eliminate all the physical footprints which are there? So earlier it was a mix of digital and physical. I think this pandemic has allowed us the opportunity to think everything digital.
Okay, that's a new thing. And Kissflow is also a digital native company, if I'm not wrong, right, Dinesh?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit. You gave us a very, very nice context. But tell us about your organization, right? What are you doing now different than what you were doing before because of what has happened in the past year or so?
Okay, so there is nothing like a transformation, right? I agree with like what Manish is doing in Flexi Loans, because we are digitally native organizations even before this. 100% digital. We don't even have any servers in our office. 100% on cloud, right? And one day we asked everyone to just work from home. Nothing changed. From the very next day, the whole thing is happening with probably better productivity, but everyone just moved away from the office, and everything is pretty much the same, right? So this is what we see as the differentiator as well. This is a completely different business model, right? If you look at the 3 phases of digitization, right? The second one is about process efficiency. And this is absolutely important for any organization, but we need to move beyond that. As Manpreet said, this is a new business model. And the new digital native companies, the digitalization is actually the moat for them. That what prevents them, or that what helps them to be successful in the whole thing, right? So the organizations need to move beyond process efficiency and need to see digital transformation as a way to grow the business, right? That need to happen. And that's what the digital native companies are already doing, right? For all the digital native companies, there is nothing like a transformation, just that it's an affirmation of what they are already doing, right?
So Manpreet, you agree with that? Because we were discussing yesterday about, digital native companies and legacy companies, and there was, you had a very interesting point to make.
Yeah, Alokda, in fact, I wanted to speak for the non-native companies, non-digital native companies, because, very often, very often we keep hearing that, digital natives have taken the traditional legacy companies for a storm. And I once again have a very firm belief that courtesy the pandemic, the thing that was holding large companies back was the ability to answer the ROI question, the ability to absolutely strike it right the ability to not be able to fail fast, right? And some of those constraints have actually been dealt with. Some of that leap has been taken because of this pandemic. And as these non-traditional companies begin to engage with customers in a digital way, as they begin to start giving a more omni-channel experience to customers, which only natives were doing, I actually think the traditional companies have this huge leap right now because they have the resources, they have an established business model, they now have access to technology, and by the way, the change has been driven for them to create significant value. And there's enough and more examples of traditional companies having leveraged digital and technology to shift their business models and create value. And the conversation I was doing was Domino's. I mean, what would we think Domino's is? I mean, is it a food company? Is it a restaurant experience? Is it a logistics company? Their CEO actually 10 years ago said we are actually a technology company. And ever since that shift began happening, today in the corporate headquarters, out of 800 people, 400 people are software engineers. And if you were an investor and you had put in money at Domino's at that time, you would have gotten more return in the market than money put in Apple, Facebook, Microsoft. So that's the power of a non-digital company, non-digital native company beginning to get their core strategy on digital right.
But that's a very good example. But one of the things that tells me is also that the CEO was very, had a lot of foresight, right? And if he said this such a long time ago, and they moved to being a technology company, 400 software engineers in a workforce of 800 for Domino's. This is something really news to me. That's fantastic. But it also brings us to a point of, are we doing our digital transformation in the right way? And do I have you here, Ajay Chabra? Are you there? Ajay Chabra, if you're there, switch on your camera.
I'm there. Yeah.
Just switch on your camera, please.
Okay, you want to see my face? Just a second.
Ajay is part of our audience. He has challenged all the panelists and said that, no, I think you are getting the definition of digital transformation wrong. So he wants to tell us what digital transformation is.
Okay.
And Ajay, you got yourself 2 minutes to tell the
Okay.
panel what is your
Fine,
view
fine.
of digital transformation.
So I think whenever
You can introduce yourself first.
okay, my name is Ajay Chavda. I'm there in the industry for last 23 years now. Currently, I'm country head for Bruce Clay India, which is a global SEO agency. And I've been a speaker at ET Edge at a couple of times. Like I've been on TV also quite some times. So my definition
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. So I've been a writer on digital transformation. I have been a trainer on digital transformation also. I've recently given trainings to Citibank, Punjab National Bank, on digital transformation, even Citibank Global Professionals.
Now, so what is digital transformation according to?
So when we talk to any CIO or CTO or marketing professional, there is a lot of confusion between digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. Now, the definition which in the book I'm writing right now is that, so digital transformation, it consists of three major elements. One, it is about optimizing the processes. Part number one. Second, it is about making a great change. Recently, one of the panelists said that word clearly, that it has to be linked to the growth of the company. I liked that part, basically. Wonderfully said. So basically, digital transformation is all about making a substantial change. These are the two words. If it is included in your definition, then it is right definition. So DT is meant to create a substantial change in the process, in the cost, in the business model, or trying to bring in new business model for the company. So that's my definition, basically. Hope you all.
Thank you very much, Ajay Chabra. Wonderful listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, please stay on and watch the program. Well, yesterday we were, it's an interesting thing to say. And in fact, many of the points he said were already spoken by our panelists. And also because we were talking yesterday, when we were discussing having an offline chat, is about identifying new revenue streams, which is probably I don't know if we can call it the holy grail or what, but it is certainly one of the larger objectives, right? That after you optimize everything and make sure that, you have done your digital transformation in those cost reduction and all that. What about new revenue streams? Don't just depend on the, feet on the ground, but what about the data? What's the data telling you? Now, for that to happen, there are challenges on our way. So the next question that we'll take is on what challenges you all are facing in this digital transformation journey that you just outlined. But before that, I'd like to take on the second poll, which is on the same question. And we have poll number 2. Okay. I hope panelists, you can see this.
Yeah.
What is the biggest roadblock in your digital transformation journey? Change management, proof of urgency, lack of unity in adoption, lack of digital talent. All four seem to be major challenges. Okay, let's wait a little longer. More than half the audience have already voted. We have 250 people in the audience now. It takes some time to get all the votes in. Change management is still number one, but closely followed by lack of unity and adoption. I think the silo thing is still haunting us in some way. Okay, let's stop. Change management is still number one. Anand, I'll come to you with this. We have absorbed this particular question, and you are also the head of HR, as well as IT, which is a wonderful combination to have, because HR and IT, I have seen Anand in panels that I've done of the, there has been a bunch of HR people and there's been one CTO and they've been at each other's throats. CTO says, "Tumko kuch pata hi nahi hai." HR says, "What? You only know about technology," right? So, but you have the unique position of being both, right? So you can take the decisions more easily, right, regarding what kind of technology to adopt and how you can get your workplace culture adapted to it. Is change management really the biggest challenge that you face, or is it something else? Tell us about it.
Logda, I don't see, I mean, honestly, at TVS Motor, we haven't ever seen change management as an impediment to growth or to adopt newer technologies. And I mean, if you have, right from the time we have been in the market, if you had seen, we were the first to bring in any kind of a technology. In fact, the leading brands of ours are already connected to deliver a different kind of a customer experience, first time in the market. So it all comes from the philosophies and the culture that we are grown up with, and we have the employees growing up with. So I don't see a change culture as an impediment to bringing in any of the changes, and more so the philosophies that we have, the way we work, using the Hoshin Kanri, the Japanese TQM, which ensures a participative culture. And if you look at the way we operate also, as the HR and the IT teams are partners to each of the business operations. So it is driven by the business, well supported by the HR and IT teams for the change. So
what would be the challenges you face?
The challenges is in terms of talent. It takes a bit of managing the talent, growing the talent is something that we are working on. And this is about both attracting, and today, if you go to the campuses, the number of people who select core jobs is much lesser than the fancied jobs. So how do you position ourselves as something, as a digital company? And we are also not a digital native sector though. But then going forward, I think you will see a significant change from what we were. So it is positioning ourselves in the digital way is one of the challenge, and attracting talent is certainly the other talent. Otherwise, there is a will, and there is a way as well. But it is getting the harnessing the talent is something that's a challenge as of now, which is where we do work on partnerships and all that to make sure that there are talent available. Even if it is not in house, we get it from outside.
Arvind, is getting the right talent also the biggest challenge for you, or is it something else, or is it change management like the audience said?
I won't say change management too much of it, because especially when you're looking at, so you see, these are being done to solve your problems. And the moment you come together as a group, not just technology focused, but technology, the business streams, the teams that are going to be working and delivering all of this, this outcome of this is a product that all of us want for solving the problem that we all set out to solve. So in that aspect, change management is a very is an important topic, but not the major one. I think in terms of the talent, that's one area where it's do we have the right people who can guide us and help us in this process of reimagination. I think that's one area where we are definitely lacking. And that's primarily because all of us, we've done all the work that we've done it so well for so many years, but we've done it in our known traditional manner. And adding that tinge of disruptive thinking into alternate modes, one, probably we are not educated in that aspect because of the nature of workforce that we are, or we have focused too much on the regular streamlined way of doing it. So bringing in that talent, and definitely from a service sector standpoint, I don't know if TVS is having this problem, but from a service sector standpoint, digital talent exists, but digital talent prefers to go more on the technology sector than coming into the service sector. Indeed, we have strong technology divisions within our own service organizations that bring out solutions. But from a market aura standpoint, we're still not an IT company. We're still not a technology company. We're still a service-oriented company. In my case, healthcare. And so yes, I do find that that aspect of talent is not as strong as the pace in which we want our transformation to happen.
Okay, right, got you. Manish, is it the, we are hearing a lot about why, Arvind is saying that it's not a technology company, and all the new guys like to go to technology companies like yours and like Kissflow. So you don't have a problem with talent, it seems.
No, I think I believe talent is in abundance and always in shortfall. So it is very difficult to find talent. You have to work with the right set of people. And I think India is one country in terms of technological talent. I don't think we have a scarcity. Obviously, the right talent.
Everybody comes to you. Who will go to Apollo and TVS?
No, then even problem hai nahi. I think one of the mindsets that has changed, and this is again digital in nature, right? How can a PwC or a Kissflow or somebody else, right, work with Apollo to help it meet its digital nature and digital transformation, right? I think that mindset change and that change of working style has to change. I think when we look at finance today, what I'm saying is we will embed finance. You don't need to become an NBFC or a bank to support your ecosystem or lend to your customers. So TVS can embed us into the system to kind of now give loans, two-wheeler loans to their customers, or actually provide supply chain finance to the merchants. It's the way to think of it. The government of India thought of COVID app, but I don't think there are many hospitals in the country actually who today have an app where we can go and book an appointment for a time and a slot and a disease that we need, right? So that's the nature of change, right? So Arvind should answer, but I'm saying as a customer, at least I'm not aware today, right, of many. So this is something which I believe, I think it's not, the challenges are many. One of the challenges is we in our mind start actually saying, hey, how do I remove the friction? How do I remove the various steps that I today take in my erstwhile setup or current setup to actually benefit the customer the fastest? And in doing that, we will have cost synergies, we will have people synergies and everything else.
That's great. But what are your challenges? That means you're telling me that you don't have any challenges as such?
No, I have a challenge of culture. The first point, right? I think it's the overall people, the ecosystem needs to have. So if I am doing lending and I have a regulator which still thinks that you need to have a physical touch point, which is the RBI in this point, they have been very progressive. But if we do not completely make it clear, then there's an issue. I have challenges of ensuring that the millions of people who apply to us every month, actually the data is very, very safe. And there are rules around data privacy. I think one of the points which is mentioned is, how do you kind of ensure that when my teams are working in remote places at their homes, how to ensure that data privacy and secrecy is there? It's extremely important. India is a low trust economy. And in that low trust economy, how do we build trust when we're working digitally? Will my manpower have the same efficiency when we move out of COVID times? So these are problems that we are kind of think don't seem as problems. are opportunities. And that's why I not say the problem challenges. But there are many, many exciting opportunities, Alokda. I think some of the most important for us to work is how do we embed, how do we actually get the customers to adopt digitization more?
Dinesh, are your challenges similar to Manish's?
Pretty much, yeah.
And the advantages?
He rightly said it, right? Pretty much for our customers, the biggest change management is not with adoption, because if you are trying to automate what you already have, improving the process efficiency, and it comes from the top, many times they just embrace that change, right? The biggest change is what we already discussed, right? The change management is, we need to see it in a different perspective. It is about how we can empower everyone inside the organization to think about digital transformation. It is not from the top, right?
Yeah.
So that is what need to happen. That's a cultural change. That is not to do with, nothing to do with the tool, right? It is about everyone believes they are part of the digital transformation and they can make changes in their function or in their team as well, right? Only if they are empowered, the whole organization accelerates towards the digital transformation. That need to happen. And if people just use the product for better process efficiency, then the digital maturity stops at a certain level. That is good enough to offset the gap, but that is not good enough to challenge the new entrants in the market.
Okay, so when you have everything going for you, right? I mean, you yourself are a millennial, I presume, right? On top of that, you have an organization that when the COVID pandemic hit, nothing changed for you, like you said, right? You went right. It was the same model and nothing needed to be changed because you were already in remote mode. And I know as an organization that Kislo is hugely focused on culture, right?
Yeah.
Employee culture. So then the same question that I asked Manish, right? You don't have any challenges going forward. What are your core challenges?
Our core challenge is nothing internally, but with our customers, because people who are embracing digital transformation or digital workplace, right? Because if they are not successful, then we are not successful, right? It is about making sure they understand this. And we have champions internally and enabling those champions to drive this message inside the organization, right? Because being part of this ecosystem, we very well understand, or pretty much who is part of our organization very well understand the advantages of doing this. And as I said, the whole organization is a collective for us, right? Everyone is empowered to take decisions, move forward. And unless our customers see this as a better way of moving forward, we are not going to be successful as well, right? So that is the biggest challenge for us.
Now, Manpreet, you must be wondering why I'm keeping you waiting. The reason I'm keeping you waiting is that we have a question for you from the audience. And Uday Sanghani, Uday, are you there with us? Uday Sanghani, we promoted you to panelist. You can ask your question directly if you want. I give you a little bit of time. Otherwise, I'll ask your question myself.
No, I would do that. So thank you very much.
Can you switch on your camera? We'd like to see you. Thank you very much, Uday. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining our program. Kindly introduce yourself and ask your question. You have a question for Manpreet.
Yeah, hi, Manpreet. My question to you. This is Uday Singhani. Specifically, there is a lot of encouragement that's coming in from the government towards the MSMEs, right? The 100 crore, 500 crore companies. And they are very excited to take this leap into digitization of their organizations. My question is, it's a given now that every one of these companies have to get into that. What is the mantra? How should they go about doing it, right? Whether they are a manufacturing organization or they are a services company which is involved in B2B or B2C, what should be the approach as a consulting organization that you would give them, and to ensure that they have a very streamlined approach towards structuring their whole journey towards the goal of getting digitized, across all the business units.
Thank you very much, Uday. We'll have Manpreet answer that. Thank you. Please
it's a bloated question to answer in a couple of minutes, but I just think any company, whether it's an MSME or a large one that's in the initial stages of getting into this digital journey, needs to take a broader definition of understanding the pillars for digital. So, who is my customer and how can I reach the customer better through a digital journey? What are my core operations and how do I embed digital into those operations? What is the data that I generate in this business and how can that be leveraged for taking better decisions quicker and faster? How is it that I can embed things like resilience into my business model so that I can adapt when a big fish attacks the market or a pandemic comes into play? So some of these elements have to be thought through. Now again, linking this conversation back to the discussion that was happening around change management, it's easier said than done. If the company doesn't get it, if their focus is to save cost because of digital, none of what I'm saying is going to happen. So my suggestion for a company that already has survived this pandemic, even if it was an MSME, and begins to feel like that it was a nice rhythm that they've sorted in terms of working remotely and running the business and sustaining the business, they have to use this as an opportunity to embed. I mean, the catalyst in the company has to embed that change such that when things get normal, this thing is sustained. And how will that happen? This will only happen when you democratize that access of technology to everything that the company does. How does that happen? When you have, this whole takeoff innovation is not left to a, one CDO or one innovation department. When there is that enablement for a citizen to be able to think and reimagine things differently, and that's where culture begins to start coming in. So those are some of the elements that need to be definitely cascaded in happier times for the change to begin to stick, for companies to be able to make a holistic shift towards opportunities that this uh, thing creates.
Fantastic. And of course, we've got many more questions there, and all the panelists can see the questions. Some of them can be answered through typing also if they are specifically asked to you, because I cannot possibly ask all the 35 questions that are coming through. If there are certain questions that you want to answer directly from the software, you can please go ahead. Right. Also, regarding these challenges, the question also comes now in terms of what is the Indian industry really buying in terms of software, right? When you're trying to reorient your workplace practices, what are you giving reference to? What's your top priority? So to take on that, I will invite the third poll. Let's get some insight from the audience in terms of what they have bought recently in terms of technology, and let us see if that matches with our thinking of reorienting workplace practices. So the poll number 3: what new digital tools did you buy for your team in the last 1 year? Yeah, I remember I bought Zoom. So collaboration apps are definitely in. We never even thought of Zoom before the pandemic, right? Now Zoom is default, right? Whenever we think of a meeting, we're thinking, okay, where is the Zoom link? You don't even think of anything else. I think even once the pandemic goes away, we'll all be, doing the Zoom meetings instead of going to, like I'm in Noida, so if I have to go to Gurgaon, which is like some 50 kilometers away, or one meeting for 1 hour in the whole day goes. This is so much more productive. So yeah, not a surprise. I suppose collaboration apps right up there. Yeah, we can stop the poll. I think we've got our view. Collaboration apps are number 1 and the rest are all following, and CRM is a distant number 2. Very distant number 2. Okay, so if we look at that, collaboration apps really, and workplace practices have definitely been reoriented by collaboration apps, right? We used to talk about collaboration apps a lot, before COVID, that yeah, you should use these collaboration apps. We had MS Teams, installed into our systems in office. Nobody used it. People barely used it for a little bit. Now every meeting is on, MS Teams. Every event that we have, every discussion that we have with leaders like yourself is on Zoom, right? And we use these for our own meetings also. So are we moving in the right direction in terms of, helping, like we're talking about the culture of the workplace? Reorienting workplace practices, is collaboration app one way? Is there any other way? Anand, you want to take that? And also you can tell us, is there any radical initiative that you've taken in the last 1 year to make this happen? You're on.
Sorry, yeah. Reorienting the workplace, yeah, I think we have invested in quite a bit of collaborative tools, but more than that, if you talk about the factory environment, literally the factory where we produce, I think we have democratized data to the workmen, in the sense more of self-directed kind of work force. So where they're able to produce with less of supervision. So these are certain things that we have done in the workplace, and there are quite a bit of work that we have done on the product development side, where the customer understanding is taken into the product. Uh, so that is another area where we have worked more. We have invested quite a bit on the CX side as well. The CX data, digital, and the data analytics. We have invested quite a bit. So these are some of the initiatives that we have taken over the last couple of years.
Okay, it's great to know. Arvind?
I don't see that this year we did anything like investing in any of these tools. And like what Anand had mentioned before, technology and using technology for the best delivery of healthcare is been part of our vision statement for the last 38 years. So it's not like the pandemic got us to get collaboration tools or CRM or ERP or any of those. Definitely, like what I was saying earlier, the pandemic has helped bring those to limelight so that the slow pace in which things were being utilized has taken a good vertical jump. So that's definitely part of it. And I think for an organization, pandemic again, great, wonderful. It's taught us a good lesson. It's brought us to some discussion. I think we need to look at it in terms of how do we make this mainstream and continue to harness that balance of the combination of the good things of the past and what are the promises that digital can definitely deliver, that becomes the DNA of a revised work process, a revised delivery model, a revised consumption pattern. I think that's the focus that we need to be looking at, for which combination of tools and investment, no doubt, highly beneficial, but it is not just driven at that. And also that makes it that we look at every work process on how we can augment efficiency by bringing that capacity of digital. I don't know whether that capacity of digital is 100 or 0. That's really, I don't want to get into that conversation. I think it needs to be as efficient as possible. And if we can periodically evaluate that, then we will know if a higher number is possible or not, and at what capacity of intake that we have. I think those are factors that I'm more concerned about, and thereby investments going in that direction of sustainability.
Right. And Manpreet, your view on this, because you are also, like PwC consulting organization, you give advice to a lot of companies in terms of reorienting workplace practices. Is it only about choosing the right tools, or is it also about more about the thinking and the strategy behind choosing those tools? So we have a question from Anjan Bose in the audience who's saying he's a little surprised that topics like AI and ML have not come up in today's discussion. But those are tools, right?
That is such a fantastic alert, and I'd like to take both of those quickly. So I actually think a lot of us who are thinking that we figured out the model of remote working and the productivity is sorted is actually, I mean, I just think we've touched the tip of the iceberg, simply because from a customer perspective, if we've been talking about omni-channel for a while, I think from an employee perspective, I don't think organizations have sorted how can you give a consistent experience to an employee, whether physically or remotely. I mean, today, if this roundtable was happening with 2 people in person with you, Alokda, and 3 people remotely, would it be as effective? We don't necessarily have that hybrid model in place, which can give, a seamless experience across the entire life cycle. So in my mind, we've somewhere disrupted the virtual working model through this pandemic. But that whole learning has to disrupt the physical work environment as well, which collectively will create the new workplace of the future, which will make a difference to employee experience and not just help imagine the cost, but deliver a different level of productivity. The second point, to the gentleman around AI, ML, I completely agree. And in fact, the data point, and this is about 18 months ago, even in North America, in today's world, while we've all been doing lip service around AI and ML, about 60% of North American CEOs kind of put on a survey and said, they are not leveraging AI for running their organization in none of the spheres of the organization. So that is the amount of, and we all kind of know that's the single biggest opportunity on the table right now, ever since World Wide Web was launched. So it's a huge opportunity out there. And again, applying that same example to the workplace of the future, can you imagine the amount of digitized meetings that we've done as an organization over the last 12 months? 15,000 people, 8 hours of meetings. This crazy amount of data on Manpreet in terms of how he runs a meeting. Can there be some actionable insights that a AI ML engine platform can share back to me that can help me do my job better? Is the next opportunity. So that unstructured data needs to be managed in a way such that actionable insights come for companies' objective, for talent learning needs, for knowledge discovery of employees. And that will be a huge opportunity we'll see where people will be spending time and money.
I'd like to take that to Manish. Are you doing what Manpreet is saying?
We, in fact, I think employee is an opportunity, like you mentioned, right? The hybrid model at employees is something which was not imagined. Even though we were a digital company, everybody used to come in the same office, right? Today, there are 3 guys coming in the office, 2 guys are sitting in Goa, 2 are sitting in the hometowns, and you cannot actually have that hybrid meeting. But in terms of customer, I think the amount of information processing that we do and the use of AI and ML that is being done is unparalleled. And I think this is what at least I did not imagine 3 years ago when we started the company we would do today. That gives us insights into so today I get about 100,000 customers applying to me. I get about 6 documents from them on a monthly basis, which means about 600,000 plus documents, each of different category, different locations, etc. And only about 10 guys processing them, which means the system kind of does an OCR, decides where to slot them, which customer should be prioritized depending on what kind of documents has it done, etc. So we are using customer insights and journeys to kind of prioritize what the customer experience should be, communication should be. So somebody who's not given communication for 3 days is used a WhatsApp today for an embedment, right? If he does not respond beyond 7 days, the case does not go to a manual caller beyond a point in time. So I think the use of data and machine learning is going to the next level, at least in data-rich places where we work today.
Is that true of you for you also, Dinesh?
Yeah, but
because like Manpreet is saying, we are only doing lip service to AI ML in India.
No, AI or ML is probably the final outcome, correct? We need to do a lot more to even get to that point. Right now, what we have is like disparate systems in an organization. The system talk to each other through some integrations, right? The data doesn't exist in one place for the AI and ML to take decisions. Monthlies happen, all the meetings happen in Zoom. Probably the collaboration happen in Slack, right? The ERPs and CRM systems are completely different as well, right? How will the system interpret the data across all these systems to give meaningful insights? That's not possible at all, right? And many of the systems are still not digitized, right? We use Google Forms, we use Google spreadsheets to capture data still, right? So unless there's a level of maturity inside the organization, in using all these systems, in AI ML may not give like significant insights, right? That's the challenge. And again, what happened in the last 1 year is not organic in nature at all, right? Because we are hit with the problem, we immediately choose all the products that are already exist in the market. There are no products that are designed for complete digital transformation, right? So that's the reason we are using many tools to solve all these different problems. And unless we have the products which can talk to each other, work with each other, AI ML may not give like a significant business benefit. That's my understanding.
You agree with that, Manpreet?
Completely agree. There's a lot of legwork that needs to be done to be able to build a data estate relevant for most companies today, at least in the corporate India. And unless you build that data estate, how do you get actionable insights? So there is a lot of, and that's the point again. A lot of us, in my client conversations with traditional companies, they'd say, oh, we've survived the pandemic. We are a very resilient company. What more do we need to do? But the journey is only begun. If we've tried new tools, new softwares, what is the data that has been generated out of that? What insights is it giving me? And how can building that estate provide the next set of blind sets for the organization is where the next set of opportunity will be. So still miles to go before we get to those actionable insights.
It actually, the references to, and I tend to use Excel sheets a lot. My team knows very well, and they make fun of me most of the time. Given the number of Excel sheets I create, it reminds me, of a long time ago when I used to be in IT, and we RDBMS and all the database systems came very long ago. I don't know why people still use Excel sheets. I mean, you have Oracle, you have SQL Server, you have so many, and you have you have the ERPs and the CRMs are also, right. So I don't know. I mean, there is some sort of disconnect over there. But we have a very interesting question from the audience and the person who has refused to identify himself or herself. And the question is, and this question I'm opening up to the entire panel, please take it, whoever wants to. If we become totally digital, what is our backup in the catastrophic failure of the internet? What do you on the panel envisage as the backup scenario if we have the equivalent of a digital COVID-19 hitting our digitally transformed world? What is the digital vaccination? बहुत कस के दिया है. So let's try and answer that. Who wants to go first? Arvind.
You really need to have valid business continuity plans in place for this world of DR and BCP and all of it going, bust. This is not a situation that is new. If you recollect way back in 2003, 2004, when there was a massive power failure of the eastern grid in the United States. That part of the country was completely dark. Almost everything came down. Shops were not able to do credit cards and hospitals were not able to open their systems. Everything was down. All transportation was shut. So it brought to light a clear issue of you need to figure out how you are going to have those additional manual controls for business continuity, for disaster recovery, and at the same time going back to learning from this and designing those systems. So to what Manpreet was mentioning, you just can't buy a digital system and do a setup.exe and install digital and call yourself a digital organization. I wish it happens that way. If it was that simple, wow, a lot of my white hair would still be black. So it doesn't work that way. You need to design systems that way, and systems have to be designed as processes.
Right.
Automation and technology is going to help that way. And to that degree, you need to figure out and make the right levels of investment. And here it opens us up into valid conversations of risk management, risk acceptance also. Because if everything you're going to start looking at it, I don't know what's your cost appetite that you can take to do that. So I think all these have to be in perspective to go forward. But that prediction of a completely digital day and doomsday falling on that, I think is an impediment for making progress.
Right. Anand, you want to take that question? Basically, what we want to know is, just taking off from the anonymous question that came up, have your BCP plans changed because of the pandemic? Are you now better prepared, for a situation like what we are seeing today in the future? So has this situation actually helped you create systems by which you can meet any sort of eventuality? What are your future, BCP plans? Anand, you're on mute. Are you with us? Frozen. Looks like he's frozen up. Manish, you want to take that?
Yeah. So what we've done is, I think we had some servers, we moved completely on the cloud. Point one.
Okay.
Got into multiple backups done. What has happened, like Arvind was mentioning, the biggest change that happened is that when you digitize certain things, you streamline the processes, right? Because when it is normal manual activity, there's so much human dependency, manual dependency, twists and turns, traffic hai, ye hai. When you're doing digital processes, you have to kind of ensure that process is streamlined. So what we have done over this last 1 year is to ensure that how can we minimalize the process of reaching to the customer and servicing the customer. So not the question that came from the audience. I think today we are in good stead, and I think I like what Arvind said, that we cannot actually predict the doomsday. What if we continue the digitization path? We would be probably in a better place even in the case of a digital catastrophe.
Manpreet, I'd really like to hear your answer to this question.
So, I mean, multiple points here. So clearly BCP, DR, resilience, you cannot underinvest in that area. So that has to be done. But I also like Arvind's point, right? I mean, for most of the non-digital native companies, there is so much of path to cover that let this not be a hindrance towards moving on to the track of digitization. I mean, there's just so much that needs to be done, is a point that I make. The second thing I'd also go back is that we need to be able to, during these times, build a culture of prototyping, experimenting, doing pilots, failing fast, doing simulations, doing drills. I mean, we'll have to get to that world. I mean, it's unlike those days where you kind of go back and build something big and then you decide, okay, you're failing or you're succeeding. So as long as we are in that world of rapid prototyping, experimenting, improving, learning, we will be able to navigate the next change. I mean, to your point of, I mean, today this is a pandemic, tomorrow there could be another problem. Maybe the water has a problem, or maybe digital world has a problem. You can't go back and say we've learned all the skills. So you will have to invest in core capabilities of crisis management. You will have to have core capabilities around BCP DR. And you will have to build a culture of adaptability. And learning to fail fast and doing things. No easy answers to that, but again, my personal view to everybody is let this not be an enemy of progression. There is miles that we need to go before we start imagining a doomsday saying digital ho jayega, sab band ho jayega, to hum legacy environment mein hi rehte hain.
And Sweta Prasad in our audience goes a step further and says, what if all the data on the cloud is lost due to power failure on the globe? What will be done? Sweta, quite frankly, it's rather...
अगर वो क्लाउड से डेटा लूज हो गया तो अगर तो शुक्र है क्लाउड पे डेटा तो था, अदरवाइज तो वो डेटा वैसे ही लॉस्ट है.
Anand, I think we missed you. You froze up when I asked the question.
Sorry. I think I had an unstable connection.
Yeah. No, so I was asking, in terms of, because there was this question from the audience, what happens if the internet goes down, then what happens to our digital transformation, right? So it brings into question the plans that we have for BCP and DR and all that, right? So data recovery and continuity plans. So what I was trying to understand is, has from a TVS Motors point of view, what are the things that, has helped you prepare for this kind of disaster in the future?
So, I mean, as the panelists also said, if we keep talking about the disaster, I mean, we need to be very careful about it. We need to plan for it. But then if we keep that at the center of our minds and start talking about digital transformation, it is not going to happen. I think we need to be alert. We need to work with partners to understand what is going on, how we can proof ourselves from these disasters. That's a continuous ongoing process, and I don't think while that is important, but it is not the center of running the entire transformation process.
So Anand, just an offshoot of that question, and we are almost out of time. So just quickly run this question past all of you, is also about the human touch, right? Because we are always talking about technology and digital, and which is great, but technology is dead without the human touch, right? And even within AI algorithms and all, there's a lot of bias that are beginning to creep in, and that we have noticed and read about, right? So, for you, because you are both, like, we've mentioned before also, you're heading both HR and IT. So you have a very advantageous position. So how are you ensuring, and what kind of advice would you like to give others in terms of remaining in touch with the human aspect even while driving technology?
That is very, quite important. So wherever the automation, wherever technology can lead into, but the human touch is certainly essential for context like as we are in India. And it is also that if we can help make decisions for the people through technology, and if those decisions can help better serve the customers and drive the experience, whether it is customers or employees, it is certainly a big added value.
Right. So Arvind, in your case also, it's a very touch business, right? the business of hospitals, healthcare, patients, doctors. So it's, we might get lost in the jargon and in the drive for technology. So how do you ensure that there's a good balance?
At Apollo, we drive the concept of TLC, which is tender loving care. So that aspect of empathy combined with science and technology is very, very essential. And you're dealing with lives, so that aspect of personal touch is absolutely essential. And when you're doing that aspect of personal touch, ensuring that that is collaborated with strong data and technology and science makes you just do what you're doing at a much higher degree of efficiency. So tender loving care is what we do at Apollo, and ensuring that every transaction becomes a memorable transaction, and mixing science and technology with that.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Manish, Manpreet, you want to have a shot at this? Dinesh, I'll come to you because you also have to summarize and give vote of thanks. So you also answer the question at the end.
Sure.
I'll just leave a one-line message. One of the paradoxes of leadership that we talk about at PwC is how do you be a tech-savvy humanist? And they can often be two extremes, but we'll have to, as good leaders, begin to understand both worlds. So that's the culture we need to drive.
And I'll add that when we're talking of culture, I think it's important that you communicate what you're doing. And I think then people understand it very well. So that our organization, people know why we are doing what we are doing and how technology helps each one of us and our customers. And that makes it much easier in life.
Very, very good point, and very, very good points from all our panelists. It has been such a wonderful discussion. I've really enjoyed it. We need to take a group photograph, and then I will invite Dinesh for his view on the human versus technology aspect, and to sum up and thank everyone. Let's take the group photo. Nidhi, let us know when you are done. We all need to look into the camera and smile.
The human touch should be visible in the picture.
Yes.
Done. Thank you.
You.
Dinesh.
Yeah. So I see human touch as a technology is an extension of what we do, right? It's not as a replacement. If you're able to create that connection, I think people are going to embrace and love the technology. And we are talking a lot about automation, but when we talk about automation, it's about moving people to the higher plane, right? The machines will do all the mundane tasks, and the people will actually do something that's on the higher plane, right? That's what we should see automation as. So as long as we see it's an extension, something that's going to help me be successful, I don't think there's going to be a problem, right? With that, it's wonderful meeting everyone here, and thanks Salakesh for moderating the discussion. It's like very, very interesting insights into digital transformation from pretty much the best in corporate India, right? Thanks a lot. Thanks Manpreet, thanks Anandakrishnan and Manish and Arvind for your time and the wonderful insights. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Arvind, Manpreet. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you so much.
Manish. Thank you, Dinesh. And thank you to all the people who stayed with us all through the program and sent us all those lovely questions. There are still 54 questions pending, but I'm sorry, we cannot take them anymore. Thank you all very much. We'll be in touch. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.